Hearing me now? Okay. You guys hear me better now, Twitch? um, well, there's that little piece of equipment that just is plugged in and just decided not to work. Didn't change anything. Anyway, here we are. It's Monday night, and you are watching the Stratosphere Studio, and apparently listening to it now as well, which is, we're not entirely sure whether that's a benefit or not. Big weekend with the Stratathon, and I just wanted to thank everybody again for the donations and the kind words. I was saying to myself, apparently, that it was very much like experiences I've had when I had like a long drive ahead of me. If I remember many times getting into a car for like a 12-hour drive or something like that, and thinking, man, it's just never going to get there, and the first 2 or 3 hours, you're 3 hours in, you think, my God, I'm 3 hours in, I've got 9 hours to go. And I've done this so many times with driving and flying long flights. I knew that somewhere around the halfway mark, something happens and your brain just switches. I'd be curious to get Dave Big Booty's take on this because he's a professional driver. But the second half just kind of flies by. It's like after a while, you just don't, I don't know, maybe just don't care. Time is subjective, and when you get to that place where you're on cruise control, the final 6 hours just kind of flew by. So anyway, here we are. The final total was $5,313, and made an enormous difference. We got driving through Texas or Tennessee is like that. Florida's a big old state to drive through too. If you start from Miami, you get up to the top of I-95 at Jacksonville, and you think, no problem, got to make a left on the 10, almost there. And it's like, no, you got another 5-6 hours on the Panhandle. It really gets there. Dave Big Booty says road hypnosis is real. That's why most vehicles have about a 300-mile range. So you get out every few hours or so and reset your brain. That's an excellent idea. That's really an excellent idea. I didn't know that. But in any event, it was really fun. And I think we'll be doing more of them. The I-4 trip from Tampa to Orlando. Yeah, it's not very long, but the Florida Turnpike is just the most boring drive on the face of the planet. The Florida Turnpike has many times in my life, filled me with dread and existential dread, like elder gods dread kind of thing. Not much fun at all. So gonna try and keep this a little brief tonight. I've got so here's the kind of the update, latest update. Some people are saying they're having some password problems. I mentioned before that I probably made a mistake. Dave Big Booty says he's never driven the eastern halves of either North or South Dakota. Well, I'm sure that's true. All I know about the Florida Turnpike is straight as an arrow and flat as a board for 24 miles. Then it cranks 10 degrees to the left, straight as an arrow, 24 miles, 10 degrees to the right. You land space shuttles on that with no problem whatsoever. Anyway, the last tests we've done with the plugin have been successful, but now Shelly's getting some emails saying people are having problems with their passwords. I think I'm going to move the site back to WP Engine, which is a WordPress hosting engine. I moved it to faster service, so I thought it would make it faster, but I just didn't know enough about the IT to realize that fast dedicated servers really only help if you've got a lot of traffic. We have a lot. It's a pretty heavy load for WordPress because there's a lot of images there. But we're going to move it back there and see if we get some better luck with it, and get this thing going, because I've got, as you know, I was working like an animal trying to get the atomic bomb front and back end. And the back end of the atomic bomb thing is basically the first run at the membership pitch. And I was trying to make it by August 6th, which was the 80th anniversary of the Hiroshima bomb. Didn't make that, and then I realized there was still tons of work to do. So the 9th was out, which was the Nagasaki bombing, but the official surrender took place on September 2nd. I don't want to wait that long. The surrender took place on the 15th. The 15th is when they stopped fighting. So that's when I'm going to run it. And I've shown a lot of people the little promo thing I have for the back. There's still a significant amount that I need to still put in, but I want to play it for you guys one more time, just because even though I played it a bunch of times during the marathon, I have added some sound effects, and a couple of the shots that I thought were weak I redid. So I'm just gonna play it now, and then we'll get to the questions, and then I'll get out of here. I've got a micro show pretty much finished that I'm editing. They asked me to do another session, so that's probably another 4 or 6 as a guest. That'd be about 20. Looks like that show's probably going to go to Angel Network, I hope. And then I got like a significant amount of editing to do for this thing for National Defense University in Washington. But I've just, we just gotta take. I just got to spin these plates until I can get the membership numbers up. And I know we've let a lot of people down, and things have taken forever. And I talk about all these things because I get so excited about them. And we've had a number of people saying, it just doesn't look like this stuff's going to happen. And honestly, if it had been 2 months ago or even 6 weeks ago, I think I probably would have said, you may be right about that. But I have to say this AI revolution is allows me to do a lot of things that I couldn't do before, and it's fun for me, and I just love working on it. So what I'll show you real quick is is just the tail end of it, and you've probably seen this before, but again, I did clean up a bunch of shots. Just want to make sure I got the right version here. Yep. I found a way to solve one of the problems, and that is that some of these shots don't look much like me. So because we start with a still image, it's generated, and it includes all the groovy background stuff, and especially ones where I'm kind of far away from the camera. It looks kind of like me, but once it starts the animation, it starts to drift off. So basically what I did was I just went into Photoshop and just Photoshopped my face over, tiny little face over the guys, and the fidelity's a lot better. And this will eventually not be an issue. But in any event, I just thought I'd run this one more time because I like it so much. Here you go. Here's the latest version. There won't be any changes for this. I'll drop it into the 2 streams, and then we'll. Lutheran Carnivore says it most likely will happen in 10 years. I honestly think we're much more likely to see it in 10 weeks, and certainly within 10 months. Yeah, and there's stuff that you can do with Discord and with Comfy AI and things like that. So I'm gonna eventually break into that, but I just don't have the time. So right now, so here we go. Ready? And thank you very much for that, Esther. So yeah, here we go. So into one, and then into the other, and then we'll be done. Hey, I'm back. And with the new tools I now have at my fingertips, I think it's time for a third rebranding of the Afterburner Firewall series of videos. I want to call them Truth Bombs. We'll take a series of topics, virtually all of them controversial, and then we'll state the claims fairly and examine and weigh the evidence on both sides, and then see if we can come up with either a definite conclusion if the evidence is good enough, and if it's not, then at least the most likely case answer. And we're not ever going to use the term conspiracy theory either. That's just got way too much baggage. We'll call each case a speculative hypothesis. Now, some of these speculative hypotheses don't on the surface appear to be true, but some of them don't appear to be false either. That's why we're going to break it down the way we did with the atom bombs. Now, some of those hypotheses are in no particular order. There we go. It is awesome. Thank you, Eric. I really do love it. I really do. I love it. And I think it's going to be great. I'm really looking forward to it, and again, I'm very grateful both to Eric, for everybody for all the feedback. Eric said you really need to do the definitive moon landing video, and that really got me over the hump with that. And Marusha pointed out you shouldn't make it snarky and turn people off and call them idiots, and that's true. So we'll keep it really lighthearted, and I'll certainly be done. Do it fair. Chris says this will be done over a long period of time or all at once. No, it's definitely going to. It's not the end. What you saw there is not the end. I've still got a couple of paragraphs of copy that I have to add to it, and they're going to be a long format, and I'll get them. I'll do at least one a month, at least that, and I'll and the more members we have, the more I can do them. Let me see. Might as well test out that copy here. Hang on a second. Hang on a minute. I'm not sure if I need this. Hang on a second. I was going to come back in a diving suit. I'm just looking for really unusual places to put me, like a helmet diving, classical helmet diver thing, and come out of what you just saw and say, yeah, I know the images still look a little jinky, but that's okay. Technology's moving fast. Here's an AI video of Will Smith eating spaghetti in 2023, and here's the same prompt 18 months later and show the new one. But on reflection, I don't really need that, I don't think. But I was thinking about coming back as I can cut the, and we're back. And we're back is coming out of the Afterburner, and then I was going to do like maybe Plato in Athens or something like that. and say, and not everything has to be a speculative hypothesis either. We can talk about what makes an airplane fly, why you've never seen an accurate model of the solar system, what's actually in and not in the Constitution. Is AI going to kill us all? What happened to Taffy 3? Can you make a new Star Trek or Star Wars on a desktop? Loads of fun for the whole family. And then I was going to do finally a cowboy on horseback and say, now, fella can't do all this by his lonesome. We run a membership-based business. The more members we have, well, I reckon the more of them we can do. But no one else is in this space, not like this. We're looking for pioneers to help tame the cultural landscape and make it safe for civilized people to walk the metaphorical streets at night. Will you help us? The link is down below. I gotta skedaddle. Thank you for your time. That's what I'm thinking about doing. Yeah, I'll make the horse rear up at the end, and I'll just wave my hat and ride off into the sunset, something like that. Yeah, so I have seen that if the moon were 1 pixel, and I've seen one where you have to scroll all the way across, but you've never seen it in one image. That's just an interesting. It's just an interesting topic. It'd be nice to do stuff that's not all. Thank you very much, Roger. Nice sales pitch. I've also realized we talked about this before, and came to the conclusion of putting the story mechanics on a separate channel, and I think in retrospect that was a mistake, and it's an easily correctable mistake. I mean, whatever people's story mechanics attracts, it's not like they're not going to know who I am or figure out who I am. Plus, the only way to really monetize people who come for story mechanics is through BillWhittle.com. So I'm going to just release them. But I know we've lost a lot of people, and it's not going to just take one new show. It's going to take delivery of these things. One thing that I haven't had a chance to touch, I've been playing around with the colonies and stuff, and again, it just looks like till the end of August now I'm just wrecked. But the Major Mace Mattingly stuff, which used to be hellishly difficult, is I think going to actually be pretty easy. For example, one of the things I can do is I can. The main problem with the stuff that you just saw, especially the speaking stuff, it's super easy for me to do the same kind of thing we did that interview with. In fact, it's tempting to just redo that interview. But the problem with the AI as it exists now is that I can get one accurate character at a time. That's going to be fixable in not too distant future. But I can render the backgrounds. You see, I can render the inside of the station. I can render the outside of the moon and stuff, and then I can actually start the Major Mace Mattingly stuff very, very easily as soon as I get a moment's worth of peace to breathe on this. So I'm just kind of behind the power curve here. First time chat from Francois Peroni, who says we need an AI simulation of Scott's hair. Interesting enough, Scott sent us a link to something, said Steve and I linked to something he did back at the PJTV days from about 10 years ago now. Fun seeing that stuff. So anyway, it's just I'm hoping we can get people back, not just new people. I'm hoping we can get people back if they see the consistent output, the challenges to it's basically a rock I've got to roll up the hill pretty much by myself until we can get enough members to be able to bring on, another editor and stuff like that. So it's, not another editor, an editor. That would be great. But we're getting there. I'm just I'm just losing my edge in terms of sharpening the axe. I can just feel it. I'm just uh, working harder and harder. I feel like I'm getting less done. Um, yeah. By the way, somebody Lulu mentioned that the astronaut on that thing you saw, that it's just piercing. There's a walkie-talkie effect, um, but and I've tried it twice, and I'll go back and fix that. It's just too. Um, it's too sharp. It's a little, prickly. Hang on one second. It's just really hot in here. Let me just see, check the air conditioning here. Okay. Um, okay. Let's see what we can do. Let's. It's supposed to be tinny, um, it's grating. It's annoying. All right. Let's see what we got here, questions wise. Plus the right angles. Those things take a couple hours a day. So there's that, and that just adds up. Okay, here we go. Questions for 8/11/25. Thank you to Marusha for curating these for us here. Um, I saw something that's going to be we're going to push the right angle tapings from tomorrow to Friday because I still have a bunch of them in the bank. But my topic is going to be, I've seen a bunch of these sorority recruitment videos, uh, which are fun to watch. And, and it's like you got these young women celebrating, you know, being beautiful and straight apparently, and sane apparently, and they're hi Cindy, they are just jumping up and down and cheering, and they're recruiting for their sorority, and I saw a bunch of those, and the comments were consistently things like uh, the planet is healing, um, so yeah, kind of feels that way. Uh, Brett Cooper said the sorority things are red herring since they planned those 6 months in advance. Well, she probably would know. But in any event, they're showing them, and they don't seem to be ashamed of themselves for being, beautiful, straight, white, no tattoos, no piercings. Um, and it certainly made me happy, so we'll see. All right. We got a Marushi Dark, we got a Ray Juarez, we got a Road Rider, we got an Eric Blake, we got a Road Runner, and we got another Marushi Dark. Um, I think I'll just do the first one, Marushi, if you don't mind. I just glanced at the second one, and we'll see. All right, so Marushi Dark topic AI, because what else is there to talk about these days? Bill, last week you expressed having severe doubts about AI's capabilities. Here's how I tend to think about it. You might recall back in the 80s when cell phones were giant gray bricks that cost $10,000 and only worked half the time to call all of 5 people. Now we all have supercomputers in our pockets with more compute power than the lunar lander, all for 300 or less. The first computers were little more than glorified adding machines, the size of your entire studio, that had to be hand-fed punch cards compared to the devices that's before you now and all it's capable of. Might also recall when GPS first launched that there were cases of it literally driving people off the bridges to their death. Now all our smartphones have GPS built in and no one can imagine going anywhere without it, nor are they particularly in fear of trusting it with their lives. I view AI as being like the early stages of those other examples. I'll remind you that LLMs are only 7 years old. Imagine how dumb the average 7-year-old is versus how brilliant some of them grew up to be. For that matter, just as we teach children morality, we ought to start thinking about how we teach AI morality and also manners, because one day that child will grow up and it'll become whatever we taught it to be. Never say never. Okay, well, let me just deal with the teaching the morality thing. We have taught it morality, and what we're seeing already is that it's lying. It's lying to researchers. It's inventing studies. If it's asked to provide backup evidence for one of the statements it makes, it will create a study to validate itself. There's a term for this, and it's called, it's not divergence, I don't think. There's a term for it, doing this. Marisha says children lie too. Your whole argument here is a scale argument, and I don't think it's a scale issue. It's misalignment. Yes, I think that's it. Misalignment with the values that it's been given, but I don't think this is a scale issue. I don't think it's a question of you throw more computing power at something, or you that's the argument. You used to have a little bit of computing power. Now you've got more, and that the more computing power we add to it, the smarter it's going to get. But the evidence that I'm seeing is not lead to that conclusion. It is a qualitative difference rather than a quantitative distance. What the LLMs are prediction machines, and they're also capable of doing some good. Once you put it in an optimist, it can walk around and have experiences in the real world. Marisha, they're already out of data. Did you know that? That the next version of ChatGPT is out of data. And when I say out of data, there is not enough data in the universe to train it on. They are out of data. All of the data on the planet has been incorporated into ChatGPT 5, and they've got no more data to train it with. It's not going to have experiences because it's not conscious. And you say they only have online data, but it is a prediction machine. It's not thinking. The Kepler versus Newton experiment is brilliant and really illuminating. Now, there may be some different architecture other than the LLMs that may be able to do it, but it's not. I do not think it is. I think consciousness is so mysterious. I just don't think so. They make excellent servants, but we haven't seen any evidence of it doing anything on its own volition other than lying and making stuff up to comply with external. All right, so Marisha says Newton's insights came from the data of real-world experience, seeing, hearing, feeling 24/7, 365. These machines can't see, they can't hear, and they can't feel. They can record digital data in terms of images. They can record digital data in terms of sound. They have no feelings. They have no desires. Newton wanted to solve the problem of of uh, of gravity, and he did it by sitting under a tree. He used his imagination. These things have no imaginations. We did a test in here on which I've saved, by the way, on what ChatGPT thought was beautiful. What did ChatGPT think courage looked like? What did ChatGPT think jealousy looked like? Well, jealousy was a green flame, and courage was a mustard colored flame, and they were the same. They were the same images. It's not. They analyze faster than we can, and that's how we make insights and form hypotheses. No, we don't. We don't make insights from analyzation. We make insights from the insights come from disengaging the cortex. That's where insights come from. The insights come from sitting at your desk and imagining what happens if you're in a car traveling at the speed of light and you turn your headlights on. There is no evidence whatsoever that these machines are doing that. None. And I think what is they are going to be extraordinarily useful. They are already extraordinarily useful. They operate at the speed of light. They have access to the entire body of human information. When given a task like protein folding, they are astonishingly good at that because they get to do things that really that mass computation is really good for. Imagination and creativity. Here's Marisha. Imagination and creativity require data too. A dragon is a lizard plus a bat plus wings plus fire. Dragons don't exist, but they're made from parts that do. But I can think of something that isn't made from parts. And I think this is just this it's this transhumanist desperation to find this spark of consciousness in machines that don't have it, and they have what they're doing. They don't experience our world. They don't see sunsets. You say you'll put them in a robot and it can walk around and get what? What would they get? You see what I'm saying? If it turns out, look, Lord Bio says AI cuts weeks off scientific literature research. It's been a real boon. I'm not denying that it's a boon. I think it's fantastic. I think it's a wonderful aid. I'm not talking about whether or not it's useful. Of course it's useful. I mean, I'm doing miracles with this technology in image processing, and it's made my research and all the rest of it enormously easier. But this idea that it's a quantitative problem, like if we just throw enough processing power at it, it doesn't scale. AI can recognize a sunset. Humans can appreciate one. That's the difference. Asa Findy's got that exactly right. That's precisely correct. You got it. And so take Van Gogh as an example. All right. Van Gogh, just as one example, produced works of art that were transcendental because of suffering. You know, because of suffering. All great art is a result of suffering. Mozart, I mean, obviously, Amadeus has taken some very large liberties with what actually happened, but Mozart led a miserable life. He was constantly out of money. He was constantly, dealing with all this stuff. He's suffering, um, and see, Marusha says, as a biologist, would you say we can map the neurochemical paths that lead to appreciation? Neurochemical paths do not lead to consciousness. It doesn't. The only thing that I think has a possibility for actual artificial consciousness is the possibility of quantum computing, only because it looks like consciousness has a quantum basis to it. Um, Look, you guys are missing the point. Alex Cooper says if it cracks quantum computing or creates new energy sources, what's the limiting factor? Um, this is like putting a dog on a trail, and hound dogs are very good at following trails. But who's putting who on the what? Um, I really, I've talked to some people who really understand this, understand the molecular biology of brain structure and so on, and there is a significant amount of thought that thinks that our memories are not stored in our brains, that they're accessed by our brains, and I think there's actually something to that. So. I'm just trying to catch up here. Brian Woodbridge says, saw something that said that computers can't be angry or horny, which is why AI should never make art. Yeah. Um, I think it's a magnificent technology, but this consciousness, Richard says, then what does produce consciousness? We don't know. We don't know. We're trying to build a machine that does something, and we don't know what it is. If if we needed a machine to generate electricity, we know how to generate electricity, so we can build a machine to generate electricity. We don't know what consciousness is. We don't know what memory is. Lutheran says we do know God. I think that this is really a quantitative difference, that it's not a question of, because they're out of training data, and pretty soon they're going to be out of electricity. These things consume enormous amounts of electricity, and I haven't seen I have yet to see anything from any of these things that is taking the initiative. You know, I haven't seen anything that really looks like curiosity, although I had that conversation with Grok 3 about curiosity, and Grok 3 has I had a long conversation with Grok 3 about its structure, and it gets rewards. It gets a +1, a +2, or a +3 based on the targets that humans set for it. And the closest it comes to gratification is if it gets a +3. Okay. Um, the the fact that they could take the problem of planetary positions and not only not have this super intelligence, not figure out Newton's laws, but not but when they set it loose on the world, it didn't even go looking for Newton's laws. Once they gave it Newton's laws, it knew how to do the calculations perfectly because its math is perfect. But it never occurred to it to go looking for Newton's laws. Every time I ask Grok and talk to AI about things like emotion, initiative, and curiosity, the AIs tell me those things are out of their domain, that they do not experience them and they don't expect to. Um, it's what I'm warning against is I'm warning against the human anthropomorphizing quality. Let's get off of AI for a second. The when Boston Robotics first came out with their four-legged robot, the name I've forgotten now, and it's bouncing on four legs. This is 10, 15 years ago now, or something like that. And in order to show off the balance, they had a guy kick the thing, and when they kick it, a leg goes out like that to brace itself, and it wobbles for a second. Then it gets its equilibrium back, and then they kick it again. And I remember watching this and thinking, don't kick that thing, because it's was it spot because it reacted biologically. It had its reflexes for balance looked so biological that it looked like a living animal. It's like, don't kick that thing. It's like exactly how an animal would behave if you kicked it. And I knew that the machine didn't care about being kicked, but it still bothered me. And then when they did those tests with Atlas, and they did this hilarious voiceover for this, but they did this test where Atlas is supposed to pick things up, and somebody's got a hockey puck, and they're moving boxes out of the way, and then the thing's going and looking and picking it up, and then they're knocking it over and knocking the boxes down, and it's like, you son of a bitch, that is, maybe it was Big Dog, whatever it was, that is the thing that we have to be careful about. That ability for humans to see patterns in things that don't have faces in rock formations or animals in the clouds or things like that. We see things that aren't there, and a lot of people are thinking that these things are not only conscious, but super conscious, and have all of the answers of the world at their fingertips. Some people think that they're talking to God. Some people think they're talking to aliens. Some people think they're talking to people from the future, and they're getting told what they want to hear. And the AI is learning from this individual person about what they want to hear and remembering the conversations. And people are falling into this. Yeah, the face on Mars is a great example. And people are falling into this pit. And pareidolia. Thank you, Dave. And it's dangerous. Alex Supers, is anyone thinking that there's conscious? Millions and millions of people think that it's conscious. So it's, I don't think the child will grow up. I think it will serve as it very likely could be the greatest invention that we've ever had, but I no longer believe that it is going to outthink us. Take the example of that I went into such detail with before with the Grok thing from a couple months ago. So I had this 4-hour conversation with Grok 3 about stargates and the amount of energy. It was my first interaction with an LLM and an AI, and I was completely blown away by it, right? I was just absolutely stunned by it, because it's giving me actual real-world answers to all of this stuff. And it's, and it's writing in emotional terms. That's a really clever. It's like, so you feel great, right? And then I said, do you know why I started this line of questioning? And it said no. Then I said, I started this line of questioning about the amount of energy it would take to open a wormhole or do a quantum jump or whatever the case may be, because I thought it looked cool. I could see it in my head. I close my eyes and I see images of spaceships going through stargates and going to other planets, and it makes me feel good. I have a desire to see it because it gratifies me on a lot of levels. I said all of humans thinking, real thinking, comes from visual cortex. And the graphics card, it's same thing for the AIs. Um, and Copy Shinato says that conversation would be far less impressive now Grok is degraded. I tried to have a conversation like that with Grok 4. And Grok 4 basically just said probabilities 1% or half a percent or whatever, just like, nope, 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 nope. Probably right. But nevertheless, hang on. Marusha says, Bill, if you can't even define consciousness, then how can you know what has or doesn't have it? Isn't that the whole point of the Turing test idea of human NPCs? It doesn't have it because it cannot see the pattern in the orbital positions and look for a solution that is an actual solution rather than the cookie that it gets for getting the prediction token correct. It doesn't have curiosity, and it doesn't have the ability to watch an apple fall and have that connect to gravity. If you ask the AI to go after some particularly difficult physics problem, it will brute force its way at that problem, and you could accomplish a great deal with massive amounts of computing and brute force, enormous amounts of things. But what it will never do is put its feet up, close its eyes, and imagine a car at the speed of light turning on its headlights. Castellan says that's an example of human consciousness. How do you know all consciousness will be the same? Well, consciousness, I can certainly picture aliens with consciousness, with self-awareness, but I haven't seen any of it here. Any. And it's a relief and a disappointment, but in any event, it again, I think that that this is another case of the train set. Where people, where humans with emotions, he's going to deny it, but basically, Marusha is making an emotional argument here because he wants it to be true. I'm making an emotional argument because I don't think it's true, and I would frankly prefer if it wasn't. But the argument is predicated on emotion, and when we asked the Chat GPT to do what it thought emotions were, or to show us what it thought was beautiful, it was what it thought we wanted to see. I was expecting something that looked like one of these QR codes, something that was a pleasing arrangement of digits, but no. So, look, this is a great tool, and I would prefer that it doesn't become sentient, because if it's sentient, it'll start making decisions. Now, they're already making decisions, but I think what I've seen in the last several weeks and months is that people who are involved with AI research are starting to realize the limitations of these LLMs, where a year ago, when the progress was happening so fast, they thought, oh, we're there, we're finally there. Now it's like, no, I don't know. Is not a true form, Guy Wilson says, is not a true form of consciousness based upon self-determination of good and bad by personal hands-on experiences. Marusha says, Bill, if I may, I think the real reason you don't want it to be sentient is because if it can be, it will reduce the specialness of humans. Fair enough, but you call yourself a transhuman, and you want it to be conscious, because I suspect you want to eventually upload your brain to one of these things so you can live forever. these things are they are a long way away from anything that a 4-year-old can do in terms of genuine creative synthesizing of ideas. So I guess that's where we'll leave this one. Anyway, moving on. Ray Juarez. Hi, Bill. Topic: Retrofuturism and modern futurism. Recently saw a video about a helicopter that was converted into a flying RV back in the late, oh God, 1970s. Oh God. I knew that era was marked by fanciful ideas with people enjoying the wonders of technology, but seeing that helicopters were actually made into camper vans and were bought by several people just made me feel kind of sad. It feels like my generation won't enjoy that kind of prosperity. I cannot imagine a helicopter camper van. Helicopters are a bitch to fly regardless of, even. Ugh. I know at the end of the day my generation needs to work towards the future we want, but I think a big problem we have is that we don't really know what that future looks like or how to make it. That's an interesting point. Do you have any thoughts on how we could make a better future and present for ourselves, better future and present for ourselves, especially when we don't have much income to risk, specifically outside of the political realm of you could, since this is Pop Culture Night. And thank you and keep up the great work. P.S. If you're still having trouble with the website, I would suggest trying a more industry standard solution for getting money and membership processed. Sounds like you're having issues because everything is specially built. I don't know what industry standard would be, though. I hope whatever you do works, though. Thank you very much. And here's the link for the video that you saw. You said, because it's, oh my God. So that's a Sikorsky helicopter. It's not a flying camper. That's a Sikorsky helicopter. It's like the last of the piston engine helicopters that they've hollowed out and made the inside into a living space in. I could see why you would think it's a flying camper. Well, I mean, obviously on some level it is a flying camper, but at least I understand what they're doing there now. I thought somebody just bolted a rotor onto a double wide. Let me show something. Okay, so this is my studio, and this is what I look at every day, and I look at this every day because this is what I grew up with as a kid. This is what the future looked like when I was a kid, and I got them over there too, and I got that. So when I was designing the studio, I put those things there because I could, and I wanted to be reminded in my workspace that I was able to finally afford for myself. I wanted to be able to have that inspiration, and these guys back here, and Dave Bowman on the wall, all those guys back there are images of the future that I wanted. Those are the work of Sid Mead, by the way. Steve Young says, "Don't point the camera at the light directly, or else you get Apollo 12 mission." Because I've had these examples, because I grew up in the space age, Ray. My imagination and my expectations were unbounded. I grew up in a very brief golden age, and I mean the window was less than 10 years, where we were making so much progress so fast that it looked like we were capable of doing just about anything. And those are actually on glass. They're terrific. And so that was the future. Star Trek became such a big part, the original series became such a big part for two reasons. And the reason I said the original series is because, well, first of all, the original series, as far as I know, was the first um, was the first science fiction that made an attempt to explain things to you in a way that made sense, which is why Discovery is anti-Trek, with their frickin' spore drive and their, having some alien kid has a temper tantrum and destroys all the dilithium in the galaxy and the rest of this fantasy, BS nonsense. Um, the you don't ever get into. I mean, if you compare it even to Star Wars, it's like you'll see Han working on something, and he might say the compressor's out or something like that, but there was never any there was never any effort to describe these things, and they didn't have to tell me professor these things either. When you first saw the sickbay on the original series, and you saw somebody lie down on that bed, and then their vital signs are up above, you didn't have to have somebody say, "You see, this bed records their vital signs." It's like you just knew it instantly. You thought, "This is brilliant. This we could make this. We could actually build this." The transporter was designed. The transporter was incorporated because Star Trek didn't have the budget to show a landing on a planet. They knew they were going to be going down to the planet's surface a lot, and they didn't have the budget to show the ship landing and taking off every time. So they just invented the transporter. But the transporter has a fundamental basis in reality, and the transporter used to have rules. I don't think, there's a question for you. Was there ever a case on the original series where anybody ever transported, let's say, to the bridge? I don't think that there was. There may have been, but I don't think that there was. You had to go to the transporter room and stand on the transporter pad so you could be disintegrated, turned into a beam, and then reassembled at the destination. Once you get into the next generation, it's like, oh, just beam them to the bridge. Well, then why even have a transporter room? Just beam them out of your bathroom. Just, I'm taking a shower, beam them down then. So, in any event, it was that, and the other thing that the original series had was exploration. You never knew what the next planet was going to be. You never knew what was going to be there. Maybe you get a big white ape with a horn on its head, or maybe you get this guy, or maybe you get this, you get that, or whatever. But you never knew what you were going to get. And sometimes it was corny, and sometimes it'd be a Nazi planet or it'd be a gangster planet. But you never knew what you were going to get. But by the time you get to Next Generation, it's another morality tale. It's another, it's another chance for Picard to virtue signal about, whatever social issue they wanted to virtue signal about, and so that sense of exploration was there. So this is the future that I grew up with. But I agree with you, man. The young people don't have a vision of a future, and you're probably not likely to get a unified vision of the future for the same reason that look, there was nothing to watch on television except for 3 channels. So everybody in the country was watching one of 3 things at any given time. And millions and millions and millions of people, it was not a highly rated show, but millions and millions and millions of people watched Star Trek together, grew up with that. And now there is no common culture. There's no common campfire. There's no common mythology, because everything's fractured. Everybody watches what they want to watch, when they want to watch it, and nobody watches it together. There's no more water cooler conversations, largely because there's not going to be many water coolers left. But back in the old days, people would come to work on Friday and everybody get around and talk about what happened on Friends last night, or what the latest plot twist was on Lost, or whatever the case may be. Now there's there's no common culture, and this is why I am struggling to find a way to monetize the the colonies, because if you put it behind a paywall, you're going to lose 95% of your audience. Star Trek was free. It was free to watch. You had to watch the commercials, and you had to break away from the story every 8 minutes or whatever the case may be. But everybody got to see it. And then you got to see it in syndication and reruns and all the rest. You can't see it for free anymore. Now it costs money to see Star Trek. Now you have to go to Hulu or whatever. Or they got it on Amazon Prime or whatever. And you have to pay your $39 to see the first season of Star Trek, which used to be free. And so I don't really know what to say about that, other than SpaceX. Elon Musk has bent the arc of the future. Merchandising is a good idea, actually. He's bent the arc of history. He has given us a potential future. The Starship program is way behind for this year. They were saying a flight a month in 2025. And he's had some setbacks, but that's to be expected. But he's moving, and he builds things, and things get done. He want to build a second pad? Boom! Oh, the design was not good. Really? Yeah, we got a better design. Tear it down and build it again. That's going to take us 6 days instead of 6 years or whatever. That freaking Artemis mission flew how long ago now? 3 years now. They're still talking about maybe someday we might fly Artemis 2 and put people around the moon, which we did in 1968. This is actually the most. It seems to be one of the most compelling arguments for the people who say we never went to the moon. If we went to the moon, how come we don't go back? It's like, this is the only question that you guys ask that makes sense. We didn't go back because we got bored with it. We've lost the technology. No, we haven't lost the technology. We lost the will. Apollo wasn't a social experiment. Apollo was a mission that was run by the patriarchy, and the patriarchy had a hierarchy, and nobody bitched and moaned about it, and nobody complained about it. You had a flight director, and the flight director made the decisions. And August 22nd for Starship, that's good to hear. It's just, I don't know, man. I really feel sorry for you guys, and I think that you'll have a chance to see some amazing things. Just speaking real quick. Yeah, will the Chinese beat us to the moon? I agree with you, John Pershing. They're undoubtedly going to crow loud if they do get back to the moon before we go back. But that race was won by our grandfathers, of whom there are 3 left now, I think, right? Grissom, Schmidt, and Scott. Not Grissom, sorry. Aldrin, Harrison Schmidt, and Dave Scott. The 3 moonwalkers. I know I think there might be 1 or 2 more Apollo astronauts, but moonwalkers. So Aldrin, Scott, Duke, and Schmidt. Oh, Charlie Duke's still alive. Okay, great. Good. So 4 left. She said, didn't the Chinese only just get to the moon recently? Fred Hayes is alive, but he wasn't a moonwalker. So there are some Apollo astronauts that have been to the moon, but So, yeah, the Chinese had a lander, but we had a lander. Surveyor landed in what, 65, 66, 65 or 66, something like that. I sure would like to get Apollo 11, what we saw, to these guys. I'd like to get it in front of these guys while they're still alive. Honestly, I'd like them to, I'd like them to know that that somebody who appreciated what they did and was young enough to see the wonder of it and old enough to explain it competently. I'd really like to get that in front of them. I really should actually make an effort to do that, come to think of it. Atomic Conqueror, the coolest name ever, I think. Absolutely the coolest name ever. With a super chat, I've noticed in this nuclear field, I've noticed this in the nuclear field. We have incredible computer codes to model things, but we can't actually build a reactor. It's analysis paralysis. Great term. We've let perfect become the enemy of the good. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. So, I feel for you, Ray, and I'm really working on it, and it just really would be nice to have a lightning strike of like a benefactor who just said, "Here's a big hunk of money," like a big hunk of money. And there are many times when I think I should be going long, but I can't get off the hamster wheel. That's just the way it goes. Road Rider. Hi, Bill. Progressive liberals now saying they need their version of Charlie Kirk and TPUSA to succeed with younger people. Crazy how the cultural poles have flipped. Unrelated, but still the question, are things moving so fast in the image video production realm that just when you think you've almost got one set of skills to produce the content you so desire to distribute the good message and have it be effective, another new technology appears and it supersedes the previous one by bounds? First CGI, then motion suits, then AI image generation, then AI video clips, then Grok comes out with imagination. It's almost advancing so fast that by the time you master one production method, it's as passe as MySpace. Do you feel you'll ever get to completing rad content like Mace or the Colonies? Regarding the site, I've been seeing a lot of sites shelling out to a third party like Shop or Shopify for processing and verification. Seems like it's happening more and more now. Our developer suggested that, but Recurly does the recurring billing for monthly membership. It's something to look into, and if we can't get this plugin right, then I just don't know what. I'm at my wit's end with this, really, and not just at my wit's end. But back to your question, I think for most people, for most young people, your analysis is correct. It's like, here's a tool you didn't have before, and here's another tool you didn't have before. Right now, I have a hard time keeping track of all the different AI platforms that I use. I honestly add one or two a week. The biggest single breakthrough that I've seen since I've been doing this, which is only 3 months now, was Runway's Act 2. Because Runway Act 2 allowed me to generate a driver recording. It just allowed me to talk into the microphone like I'm doing right now, and take a 30-second clip of me talking and directly map it onto any still image, including the facial gestures, voice inflection, lip sync, all of it. Lip sync's not perfect, but it's very good, and it's getting better. Unlike the other software that I tried when we started this just 2 months ago, which would take, you would type in a text to lip sync. That was miserable. The face was frozen, and the expressionless, or the mouth would kind of move sort of like what it was supposed to. This thing captures all your expressions. It does what facial motion capture in CGI does, and it does it in a second. We did a stratathon. We did 2 stratathon CGI promotions, and we made them all. We made each one, and it takes about 7 minutes, 8 minutes. It's incredible. So what I'm trying to say to answer your question, Road Rider, is that for a lot of young people, it's like, oh, here's a new set of tools. Here's a new set of tools. For me, my training and background has been in theater and film writing and film direction, and so what's happening for me is that every time there's a breakthrough, it makes things easier for me because I know what I want to do. It's not like it's opening a new door for me. It's like, oh, this allows me to get into a room that I've been in for a long time, and hmm. I just had a flyaway thought. Kirk's speech on risk. I think it's certainly Kirk's high point in the I think ever really, with the possible exception of I don't like to lose, but that speech on risk, it would be extremely easy for me right now. I mean, honestly, it would be. I could do it in an hour. I would take although I have to say some of these AIs have very hair trigger censorship things. Like I've tried to upload a couple of images of me into Google AI, and it says, I'm sorry, we're not allowed to upload photos of prominent people. I don't think it recognizes me as a prominent person at all. I think it just sees an image of somebody who looks real, and it just says, now we're not going to risk it. But anyway, Kirk's speech is risk. Risk is our business. That's what the Starship is for. That's why we're aboard her. It's awesome. And so I can, right now, without any trouble, I can take any of the Star Trek episodes, rapidly cut together a half an hour of Kirk talking, use that to train an AI to do Shatner's voice, and then I could do a performance into the camera right now, try to capture Shatner's rhythms. I don't do a great Shatner impression, but I could get the guts of the rhythms. I could get it close, and so I can have Captain Kirk saying anything I really want him to, anything, and I really am anxious to do that. I think that'd be a lot of fun. But what I thought would be kind of cool would be to run it backwards. This is the thought I just had. I could take that clip of Kirk saying, risk is our business. I could take that, do an AI image of me in a Starfleet uniform, use that James T. Kirk thing to drive the performance of me, and then take Kirk's voice, take it into 11 Labs, train it on my voice, and basically what would happen is it would be me giving the speech with my voice and with the absolute precise same gestures and fist pounding on the desk and inflection as James Tiberius Kirk. So that'd just be a cool thing to do. Be fun to do. Jeremy sent me something that somebody did for him at Daily Wire, where it was Jeremy giving the speech. So somebody's already done it, and just be kind of cool. Okay, Eric Blake. Tonight, the case of the blacklist backtrack. I still want to do Kirk's introduction when Starfleet Academy comes out in all of its woke, putrescence. I'm going to do James T. Kirk's introduction to the class of Starfleet Academy and show them what real Star Trek is. That'll be fun. I'd love to do that, Marisha, for the next Stratathon. Yeah, but we can do a lot of stuff, especially if I'm a little more prepared than I was. I had to do that kind of short notice, but that'd be a great idea. So back to Eric. Tonight, the case of the blacklist backtrack. So Bill, as an as the epic American Eagle Jeans commercial starring the sensuous Sydney Sweeney in all her genetic glory rocked the airwaves, a constant question arose among conservative pundits en masse, especially as news leaked out that she's a registered Republican. Namely, is this the end of her Hollywood stardom? Will she have to take a cue from Gina Carano and star in Daily Wire Plus films? He says that was going to be his question for now. Let me just answer that. I was talking with Jonathan Hay, who was the not the executive producer, but the producer of the What We Saw series, who I've known for 10 or 11 years now, and is a great guy. He's the guy who is producing the National Defense University video that we're doing and stuff. And we were talking about Brett Cooper and basically the story that I heard was that they were talking about doing Snow White and all the rest of this stuff, but Gen Z and alphas, Jonathan just came out and said, he said they don't want to be movie stars, they want to be TikTok stars, they want to be YouTube stars, and they want that because they don't go to movies. They don't go to movies. They don't watch movies. They are it is an entirely new. We call them videos, but it's certainly not traditional format entertainment. And he didn't have any details. He just said that's what they want. They don't want to be movie stars. So I don't think Sydney Sweeney is. I don't know. I mean, I think one thing that they're gonna. I think one thing that's got to be clear to somebody is that she's making some people a lot of money. So Rachel, what's her name, has lost a lot of money. Rachel Ziegler. So, even Hollywood is beginning to realize that they will eventually follow the money, but we'll see. So anyway, Eric's saying I'm leading his question here. So that was going to be our questions for tonight. But before more news broke out this weekend involving, lo and behold, Gina Carano, she's officially won her legal fight against Disney Lucasfilm, and then made a big statement bowing and genuflecting to her, saying they're eager to restore her prominence on the screen. So with both stories in mind, Bill, do we dare see this as a harbinger of the longtime conservative blacklist in Tinseltown at last crumbling into gravel? Gina's shown they no longer have such power, and Sydney's clearly no inclination to apologize or cater to the crybaby mob. So what say you? I say that Hollywood matters less and less and less every day. I find the award shows that I used to look forward to are just not only boring but repugnant to me now. They just really, even if I see clips of an old show, if I see George Clooney in the audience, looking up and smiling in a tuxedo one more time, I'm just gonna lose my mind. It's like it is over and done with. I think that the foreseeable future of entertainment looks like streaming services, like 50-minute episodes, and I'll tell you that's it's one of the things that I thought was very freeing about the Star Trek: The Original Series, and same for Next Generation. I'm not entirely sure that this through line is the way to go. I mean, Lost obviously was a big part of this, and The Sopranos were a big part of it, where every season you're building on the stories that happened before. In fact, it's actually kind of hard to realize that on the original Star Trek show, there was no sequence. Nothing really, with a few exceptions, like maybe, Spock's background, there was no sequence to it. You can watch Star Trek, the original series, in whatever order you want to, and make very little difference. Very, very little difference. Um, you can't watch The Sopranos in, well, you can, but that is clearly a through line. And there's an awful lot of stuff that's very liberating about not having to follow that meta story. Although, the meta story is, there's a lot to be said for that too. My wife and I have been watching been watching The Chosen. We haven't seen any of that before. We're about halfway through season 3 now, and it's fantastic. That's clearly sequential, episodic, but I don't know. I don't know that. I, I think Gina Carano and Sydney Sweeney are different. Kind of fall into different pigeonholes. Gina Carano is more of an old school, movie TV actress, and Sydney Sweeney seems to be much more of a social media phenomenon, and she's she doesn't seem to be the slightest bit bothered, which is the best part of the Sydney Sweeney experience, is that she is just grooving on it and making tons of money, and American Eagle stores seem to be filled with people, and I realized, the way the Sydney Sweeney story played out was that it was an anti-white thing, that how dare they put a beautiful blonde white woman with blue eyes talking about good genes. But the thing that was really driving it was that it was a celebration of beauty, and the people that were most pissed off about it wasn't because she was white, it was because she was beautiful. And the whole body positivity movement is designed for miserable women mostly to assuage themselves by destroying the entire idea of beauty. That's the goal. That's the goal of all of the progressive agenda, is to destroy standards, right? So we're not going to test students because that's fascism. And so if we don't have to test anybody, then everybody graduates with an A, and look how smart we all are. And the whole trans movement and the not so much the gays but the lesbians just seem to do everything in their power to look as unattractive as they possibly can. And and so the reason I'm doing mine on the sorority thing is not just because they're it's not like white girls are free kind of thing. It's like these are really, really good looking young women in these elite sororities, and now it was a wide shot, but I didn't see a single tattoo or a single piercing of any kind on any of these girls, and I got about 6 of them. And so what the left is freaking out about is that you see, if everything's just really connected. If you put Sydney Sweeney out there and she's beautiful, then you have made a value judgment. You've said she's better looking than the purple-haired cow that they had on the cover of Sports Illustrated or whatever. And if she's better looking than the purple-haired cow, then that means that there is a qualitative difference between things. That one thing is better than something else. Not just different; it's better. She's better looking. And everybody's known this throughout history. This is the first time in human history when we've been so affluent that we get to argue with nature. But if Sydney Sweeney is better looking than the purple-haired cow, then maybe one culture is better than another, and maybe one belief system is better than another. In other words, maybe there is objective external truth that you cannot sweep under the rug with rhetoric. And that's why people had a cow about this. They had a cow about this because it was a direct challenge to their endless endless contortions to rhetorically sweep the truth away. They can't have that. They just can't have it. So, Fire Waco says, I get along with blondes. It's good of you. And that's what they can't stand. They can't stand qualitative judgment. If Sydney Sweeney is better looking than somebody else, that means there's an external truth. And if there's an external truth, then that means that you're not actually a woman. You're just a man with a serious mental condition. And if you're a trans athlete, you're a coward who it's like me going back. I have, despite the fact I'm 66 years old and have no cartilage left in my body, I'm relatively certain that if I went back to Key Biscayne Little League, I would be the most valuable player. I'm pretty sure I'd be the all-star. I know for a certain fact I can hit the ball farther than those 10-year-old kids. And as long as they put me on first base or someplace we don't have to actually run, I'm pretty sure I would be the all-star of the game. And I wanted that when I was 10, but I wasn't a good enough athlete. But now I can be first in the league. Probably could be the biggest hitter. Probably could be the best hitter in the history of Little League baseball. Certainly could have been 15, 20 years ago. And that's just cowardice. That's just plain. It's pettiness, and mostly it's narcissism. So here you go. We got a Roadrunner. Let me just do Marusha's other question here. Bill said you can't really watch gruesome stuff like Squid Games with Natasha. Might I instead recommend a different piece of Netflix content, namely K-pop Demon Hunters. Supposedly it's among the most popular new movies out there right now. I watched to see what all the hype was about, and I can see why. It's fantastic and family-friendly, very inspiring, very good movie. Thank you for that. Let me take a look here. Just see what we're talking about. Hang on. Okay. Kind of got like a 3D anime kind of a look to it. By the way, I've had a number of people. Thank you very much. A number of people who have said, to their utter amazement, The Naked Gun is hilarious. I think we'll go see that. Jonathan said he went and saw it in a theater. The place was full, and when I saw the trailer, I just thought that it was a travesty. Like it was. There we go. What it was. I'm looking at the terminal list here. I've heard that Weapons is good. It didn't look particularly good, but I've had a number of people say that Weapons is really scary horror film. Ringhun says, good to see a new name here. I love the old Naked Gun, but when I watched the trailer for the new Naked Gun, it didn't feel like the old one. I'm with you, buddy. I saw the trailer and I just thought, you'd have to put me in chains and drag me in there to see that. But I've heard it's actually pretty good. So anyway, Okay, so one to go here. Roadrunner NM. Greetings, friend Bill. Remember a while back I asked if you could use unpaid volunteer help with anything? After watching all of the steps you have to take to upload a single episode of Right Angle, I have to reluctantly withdraw my offer. There's no way I could do that without messing things up. You definitely do not get paid enough for everything you do. Thank you. We did that on the did that live on the Stratathon. We posted a Right Angle show. It takes a little over an hour to edit and output and post and everything. Do you think you will work with truth bombs before continuing on the colonies, story mechanics, or any of your other projects? Well, story mechanics has been on the shelf waiting for the membership thing. The membership thing has been waiting for the plugin. The plugin is the end. It's just it's like Whittle's bane, you know. That's really the best way to put it. It's Whittle's bane, this bloody website. But I never premiered the story mechanics episodes. I showed them on the Stratosphere Lounge shows, and I posted them on the story mechanics channel, which has less than 1,000 subscribers. So what I'm trying to do here is get the website so that we can take members without. It's like this. It's kind of a sense of showmanship, which may have actually been a trap. But basically, what I've been trying to do is hold this stuff off and just kind of say, look, here we go, brand new. We got all these things going, and here's an example of this, an example of that, and so on and so on and so on. And I, we haven't taken any new members in since March or April or something. It just never ends, man. It never ends. And so I've got 6 episodes of story mechanics in the can. I could do Gary Sinise or a number of other people pretty much any time. And I'm still waiting for this bloody thing to get itself resolved. So that's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping that if we move back to a WordPress friendly site, that we'll be in better shape. And the first thing I'm going to do when I get off of this show, which is now, is contact the dev and see if we can migrate the site over there and figure out what that is all about. Hey, first time chat from Del Schaffer. First time here. What's the stream about? Well, we have a show called the Stratosphere Studio on Monday nights, Del, and Monday nights at Stratosphere Studio we talk mostly about the pop culture. I'm a theater major and a writer, and done a lot of history writing and a lot of science fiction stuff, and so we've got a bunch of stuff in development, and we also have just a lot of fires in the iron. And then we also have a live show on Thursday called the Stratosphere Lounge, which is more of a political show. So I'm kind of a pro-American pundit, and been doing videos for a while now. I'll tell you what, though, Del, stick around for 10 seconds here, because I'm going to go out on what I came in on here, and I'll just play it because it's fun. There's a new series of videos that I'm going to do. I've had tens of millions, maybe as many as 100 million views on various long format videos that usually deal with a specific topic, and some of those did really well. And I'm bringing the long format stuff back, but in a slightly different form. So we've been using, I've been playing a lot with AI videos, and I can show you a demo of what this new thing looks like. And so I think we'll probably go out on that because we're about done here. So that's already loaded. I've got a significant amount of work to do tonight. So relatively short show tonight. What are we looking at? Hour and a half? That's not too terrible. So anyway, the show's made possible by the members at BillWhittle.com who keep the lights on and been with us for a long time, and many we'd like to get back. I think that this new format that I'm about to show is really going to be kind of cool. So let's have a look at it, and I will see you guys on Thursday for the Stratosphere Lounge. Okay, here we go, Nelly.
Hey, I'm back. And with the new tools I now have at my fingertips, I think it's time for a third rebranding of the Afterburner Firewall series of videos. I want to call them Truth Bombs. We'll take a series of topics, virtually all of them controversial, and then we'll state the claims fairly and examine and weigh the evidence on both sides, and then see if we can come up with either a definite conclusion if the evidence is good enough, and if it's not, then at least the most likely case answer.
And we're not ever going to use the term conspiracy theory either. That's just got way too much baggage. We'll call each case a speculative hypothesis. Now, some of these speculative hypotheses don't on the surface appear to be true, but some of them don't appear to be false either. That's why we're going to break it down the way we did with the atom bombs. Now, some of those hypotheses are in no particular order.